Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
And beer.
and Beer. I'm Bill, and this is my lovely and gothy co host, Sandra. And this is episode
And
145,
It is not
and
145. It's actually
Sandra's
146.
first episode back since the Dexter episode, because I covered one last week with Jodie Plachey. But in the Dexter episode, I promised that we'd probably be doing one in particular at some point. But, well, we're doing it now. It's David Parker Ray, the Toy Box Killer.
well, okay, we're gonna do this today. All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm like, yeah, might as well.
Yeah, it's fair.
He's a sick and twisted piece of shit who, with his girlfriend Cindy Hindy and his own daughter Jessie Ray,
Cindy Hindi,
Cindy Hindy, yeah,
Julia Gulia.
Julia Gulia, um, Bill Williams.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, her parents didn't love her.
I think that was a married name, honestly.
Really? Maybe. I
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be like me trying to find someone with a last name of Dandy or something. Like, it's Sandy Dandy. Look at her.
Well, they got, I mean, it's always the girls with the bad names in high school. They're trying to get married, like immediately, like right out of high school. Like I knew this girl. I went to high school with this girl, Stacy Rattenbush, and I'm kidding.
I've known some people with bad last names. I knew someone once, and their last name was was Slutsky,
Oh boy,
and I always wanted to say it's Slutsky because I figured and no, they
she's like,
didn't want to be called
no, it's
Slutsky.
Slutsky. Say it right. Damn it.
Yes, pretty much. And I was like, why? Okay.
But they took a shipping container and converted it into a soundproof and escape-proof sexual torture dungeon. They would kidnap women, strap them to a gynecologist, God damn it, fuck, gynecologist chair.
Gynecological. Well, I would say like a gynecological table. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, and it would do every sick and depraved thing to them that the twisted mind could come up with. The woman's ordeal started off with a recording being played for them from Ray, and explaining exactly what was going to happen to them for the foreseeable future until he got tired of torturing them. Some women were let go, some after just a couple of days, but others were there for months. But he would drug them up for several days, effectively wiping their memories. His crime spree lasted from 1957 to 1999, and he would claim to do this to up to 5 women a year. There's a lot of sources. I pieced it together. I'm just going to give you some of them because, Wicked Attraction documentary, season 1, episode 4, Evil in the Desert, is Murderpedia, Criminal Minds Wiki, a little bit of Real Wiki. There was another documentary that I used as well. But yeah, I pieced this one together. But let's play, shall we?
Is that what he said? Let's
Yeah.
play.
Well,
We want to play a game.
He called it a toy. He called it a toy box. So, I mean, David Parker Ray was born in Belen, New Mexico on November 6, 1939, to Cecil Ray and Nettie Parker. He had a sister, Pearl, and they lived on a small ranch with David's grandparents, Russell and Dolly Parker. They were dirt poor, and the grandparents were very strict, and they had a spare the rod, spoil the child mindset. His father was an abusive alcoholic who would just pop in every now and then, and when he did, he would drop off magazines for David to look at. And I'm not talking about like Mad Magazine or anything like that. I'm talking
Okay,
about
I was worried. I'm like, what was he dropping off? Penthouse, Playboy.
worse. S&M porn mags that were like underground that showed actual. It wasn't staged. So
Classy.
very. In high school, he was picked on because he was shy and awkward and he didn't know how to talk to girls. And that's probably because he was conflicted on how he was supposed to do things, how he was supposed to treat them because of what Daddy said. Daddy?
That's no daddy.
But that just
Oh.
led to him turning to drugs and alcohol at an early age. Ray had fantasies about raping and torturing and murdering women, even in his early teen years. He liked to express his fantasies in drawings, and his sister found the said drawings one day, and she pretty much avoided him after that. Don't blame her. Don't blame her a bit.
Locking her door at night, I'm sure.
He started assaulting
Yikes.
women as a teenager, and um, in his tape recording, he actually said, "I've been raping bitches since I was old enough to jerk off and tie little girls' hands behind their back." That's from the tape. Um, he claimed to have committed his first murder at 18. He told his first wife what had happened. They kidnapped a woman and tied her to a tree, tortured and murdered her. This claim was never confirmed. I don't care if it was a lie or not. The wife should have bolted at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's so typical. Like, hey, honey, I forgot to pay the water bill. I hope you're not mad at me. Hey, honey, I tied this woman to a tree and sexually tortured her and killed her. I hope you
Yeah.
don't mind.
But I don't know if it was at that point or not, but at some point she did leave him, and he would marry 3 more times after that.
Like,
Ray, Ray joined.
oh my God. Yeah, I wonder, I I wonder how normal he was normally. I don't know. That doesn't sound right. How normal he was normally, but I mean, to find four women that apparently were willing to marry him, he must have acted normal to an extent.
Well, he was a manipulator, big time. I mean, he definitely was not a looker by any sense of the meaning. I'm gonna throw a picture up here of him real quick. All right. Well, this is what he looked like when he was you know in jail. Real look at
He's
that
looking pretty
guy.
rough.
Yeah. So he was over 60 at that point. So yeah, it's just yeah. What a looker, huh? Or not.
I I mean, I'd be curious to know what he looked like when he wasn't looking up like a wrinkled old man. Like if he looked decent when he was in his 20s or 30s.
There's no pictures of him like that, but apparently because he was married 4 times. Um, but he joined the army right out of high school, and he became a mechanic, and he did do one tour, and he got out with an honorable discharge. And he became a maintenance man for the New Mexico State Park Department in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. That's where he spent the rest of his life until his arrest. Yeah, Truth or Consequences is a small town, population 6,000 in 2020. It's a couple miles from Elephant Butte, New Mexico, and Elephant Butte became like a little tourist destination because of a huge man-made lake that they put there.
Hmm.
And I don't know how they got the water there, but like, well, it was originally called Hot Springs, so there's probably a lot of underwater springs in the area, so they just tapped into it and it filled up. But in 1950, there was a radio show called Truth or Consequences, and it was said that if they did this promotion where if a town changed its name to Truth or Consequences, they would come and do the shows there. And Hot Springs took the offer, and it's still Truth or Consequences as of today. And I've actually driven through there a few times. But as a result of his upbringing with abuse and neglect and what his father instilled in him about women, Ray acted on those things, and they drove and motivated him. But he kept a victim mentality over it, and he used these things to justify his action in his mind. He was a textbook definition of a sexual sadist. He started off with consenting partners, but that later changed to the non-consenting. He needed the women to be in fear for their lives as he raped and tortured them. So, yeah, but it was ultimately whatever it took to get Ray off is what he would do. It's not really clear when the toy box came to be, but Ray spent over $100,000 transforming it, the shipping container, into his sex dungeon. He was the one who
I
named
mean, I don't know, like that's one of those things where I mean, if that's what you're into, I mean, he may have he definitely spent his life building up collections and then finally, you know, putting them all together in a shipping container.
Yeah, I say shipping container, but it's more like a smaller portable trailer.
Mm.
When I first heard about this story, I just imagined it to be a shipping container because you can basically transform them into anything you want. But as I was doing the research on this, it wasn't a shipping container. It was just like a trailer that you could, like one of those trailers they'll put up at construction sites for the office. It was like that.
Mm. Like a pod, kind of
Yeah.
like a yeah. Mhm.
But um but he was the one who named it the toy box. And he put a lot of money into soundproofing it and making it escape proof, but uh, he also spent a lot of money on what he referred to as his friends, basically whips, chains, pulley systems, clamps, leg spreader bars, leather straps, surgical blades, even saws, not to mention all sorts of dildos in all sizes, syringes, as well as a contraption that he had rigged up for electric shock. He and or his accomplices, which we'll get in detail later, would in most cases drug a woman at a bar, leave with her. She would pass out. When she came to, Ray would hit play on the tape player and of his recording. And he'd be watching from the house with the camera feed, and the tape player was also in the house with wired to speakers that went out to the toy box. But we'll get to all that. So put a knife in that.
Was he married during all this?
It's not clear. I'm guessing at some points, yeah, he was, because he had, it went from, what was it, 57 to 99. So yeah, he had
Yeah,
to
I
have
mean
been.
that's
But
uh,
uh,
yikes. I'd like to talk to some of his ex-wives.
yeah, that would be kind of interesting. I mean,
I really would.
it, yeah. I do you want to see pictures of some of the crap that he had?
Sure.
All right,
Doesn't
one
bother
second.
me. I mean, I mean, it would if I was there, but yeah, listening to the tape or something like that, I'm sure it would bother me, but
Yeah. Well, this is inside it, and here we have that's
Satan's wow.
Satan's Den. That's what he called it. And look, there's a CB radio right underneath it, and it looks like on the left, that looks like a lightsaber, doesn't it?
Which it really kind of does. Like
I don't know what it is.
uh,
But
I like the magazines and the holders, you know.
yeah, that picture's not very clear, but that's
It's like a
all.
workshop.
Yeah.
Or
See if I got a better picture. Oh, there's douchebag again. Did I go through all the pictures I had? I guess I did. Oh well. You get the point.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Satan's Den. He was proud of that. It's a toy box, which to them was Satan's Den, and he was the devil when he was in there with a woman. He also had a fur lined coffin that he would keep women in for extended periods of time. There was a mirror on the ceiling.
Erline.
Yeah, fur lined coffin. Hey,
Uh,
wants them to be comfortable, I guess.
I mean, see, like, what's sad is that is the kind of shit that I would have in my house for a step. Be like fur-lined coffin, like that kind of
Now I
fun.
know. Now I know why you're going to a party tonight dressed like dressed like Sandra the goth girl tonight, aren't you? What are you doing tonight?
I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna get my fur-lined coffin.
But
Just
there
don't
was a
know, do you?
there There was a mirror on the ceiling so that victims could see what was happening to them. There was also
Mm.
video cameras with screens into it right next to the thing, so that you get an even up close look at what was going on. I mean, he just liked to dominate them. He had wooden contraptions similar to the stocks, which he would put women in to subdue them as they were being raped and tortured. Um,
Mm.
this would also be used when he had his friends over and some other friends that we'll get to shortly.
Oh, there were more. Mm.
Mm, You could say that he was friends with animals.
Oh, oh no.
But some of the victims he let go after drugging them to the point to where they got amnesia. The ones he killed were more than likely dumped in the Elephant Butte Lake, which is extremely deep in places. Not to mention all the desert area out in that area where there's just thousands and thousands of acres that would you dump a body is never going to be found.
Mm.
There's no definitive timeline here, so I'm just going to go. You know, you know, hold on. There's no definitive timeline here because of because there were only like three people that walked away from this. So I'm just going to piece it all together, and we'll start with the accomplices, and there were several. His main accomplice, like I said, Cindy Hindi. She worked at a state park there in Town and Country, Truth and Consequences. She
Time country. Yeah, I'm gonna say you're not gonna be able to say her first and last name. I can't take her seriously. I can't. I mean, I know she's a crazy sicko, but I can't. I, I can't.
yeah,
Just call her Cindy or so. Like you can't say the full name.
we'll just call her Cindy. Yeah, but she was 20 years younger than Ray, and at 37 years old was when they met. I mean, she had had a rough life. She was molested by her stepfather at 11 years old, and their mother believed him over her. And she had three kids from previous relationships, but was on the run from Washington State over convictions of grand theft drug charges. She and a friend had tried to sell cocaine to an undercover officer, so she bolted and wound up in Truth and Consequences. Um, Love was in the air, and Cindy was a willing participant in all of Ray's violent sexual desires. Prior to hooking up with Ray, she had been in several violent flings with locals and wound up in jail as the aggressor.
Oh, so, oh,
Nice woman, huh?
yeah. She sounds like a peach. It's like real sweetie. Both of them, really. I mean, they just sound like just a nice couple. Lovely
next,
people.
next was Jessie Ray, David's daughter. Now, this is interesting because she had tried to call the police on David back in 1986, but it was determined that it was just hearsay. There was no evidence to back this up. So apparently in 86, the toolbox might not have existed yet. I don't know. But she later became part of David's crimes, and it's not known how many she assisted in the kidnapping and killing. But one of them, it is known, Marie Parker, and
Mm.
we'll get to her. There was also Dennis Roy Yancey, who was at one point seeing Jesse. He also aided in kidnapping and killing Marie Parker. He was a local in Town and Country, and he was a bit of a douchebag. He was constantly getting in trouble while growing up, and he and his friends were even responsible for getting Halloween canceled for the kids one year in town. Why do I want to keep saying Town and Country? Because we have a Town and Country town here close to us. That's why.
Mm.
Truth and Consequences. But it was canceled
Well,
because
because it's
of,
a weird ass city name. It's like
yeah,
that's not. When you say it, it's just like what?
or Intercourse, Pennsylvania,
Hell, Michigan.
Hell, Michigan.
Hell does freeze over every year. I mean,
but Halloween was canceled because of one year because of a crime spree that he and a buddy were on. He was also kicked out of the Navy on a dishonorable discharge. I'm gonna refer. Lots of podcasts refer to him as Roy, his middle name. It was Dennis Roy Yancey, and he went by his middle name. But I'm just going to refer to him as Dennis because we already have two Rays.
Menace.
Well, yeah, he's that. But we already have two Rays, so I'm not going to be, having two Rays and a Roy would kind of make it. So,
A Ray and a Roy, like, Roger, huh? Over. What's our vector, Victor? What's our clearance, Clarence?
I love that movie. That's Airplane. That's one movie that I would not mind seeing a remake of, just to see if they could pull it off.
I don't think they could.
I don't think they
would
could
ever be as good as the
Yeah,
original.
well, they couldn't do that movie today with all the politically correct bullshit. There's no way that movie could be made today. Same thing with Blazing Saddles, even though Blazing Saddles is spoofing racism.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. So he's Dennis, just to make things less confusing. Now, I have, some podcasts. I mean, I've never heard a podcast actually read the entire tape transcript, and I'm not going to do it either because it's 30 pages long.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We have episodes that aren't 30 pages long. Entire episodes.
I mean, I'm sure that if you want to find it and listen to it, you can.
Yeah, it's easy to find online. But I had initially cut it down from 30 pages down to 15 because he repeats himself quite a bit, but that was still an awful lot. And I mean, he went on for 3 pages just talking about a questionnaire that he was going to have the victim fill out. But I was looking for a condensed transcript that would put it together for it to make sense and everything, because if I was to do that, it would have taken a lot longer. But I found what I think was an older transcript, like a first draft or something that they used, and then he changed it up later. So I'm just going to read that.
Okay, bitch. We both know what you've been brought here for. A lot of fucking and a lot of sucking. Your wrists and ankles are chained, and you're gagged because you're not going to like it the way I do it. You're going to be kept naked and chained down. I'm going to use you for a sex slave. I'm into bondage and S&M. It's kind of hard to find a willing partner that goes for that shit. So when I get the urge, I go out and I find some good-looking little bitch that turns me on, and I kidnap her, and I keep her in my playroom for a while for a sex toy. And this time, it's your turn. You're going to be tied or chained in different positions and whipped and raped repeatedly in your cunt, mouth, and asshole, and your tits and sex organs are going to be abused and tortured in a variety of different ways. I'm not going to cut you up or do anything that will cause you serious injury. And don't worry about being killed. I don't plan to do that either. As long as you don't know me and don't present me a risk in a week or two when I'm through with you, you can be turned loose. Your tits, your pussy, and asshole all going to be stretched and swollen and sore as hell. You'll have some whip marks, and you'll probably have a few blisters on your tits, nipples, and sex organs from cigarette burns, but nothing that won't heal up in a few days. You're going to be tied in a variety of different positions, and for the most part, you'll be kept on a rectangular table, chained down, spread eagle, your legs forced extremely wide apart. If your tits are big enough, I'm going to tie ropes around them and squeeze them with the ropes. They'll also be squeezed with a breast press, and I'm going to put clamps on each one of your nipples with long nylon cords on each one. And I'm going to tie this cord very tight to the ceiling rings overhead. I'm going to see just how far I can stretch your tits, and we're going to stretch your clit, and if you pass out while I'm doing this shit, I'll revive you with ammonia inhalants. I want you to feel every second of it. And if you piss on yourself, I'm going to insert a catheter plug in your urethra to stop the hole up. The plug that I've got is pretty big, and it's painful, and I'll just leave it in there until you turn loose. I'm going to use an electroshock machine with clamps attached to your nipples, clit, or metal probes that'll be inserted into your pussy and asshole. I'm also going to stick needles in through your nipples, tits, and clit, and cunt lips. I have a hell of a good assortment of dildos and different sizes. Everything from a standard penis size up into some real monsters, 3.5, 4 inches thick, about as big as a baby's head. What I plan to do with you is start with the smaller ones, stick them in your cunt and ass, and play with your holes for a little while.
Um,
And each
This would
time,
definitely get demonetized if we actually got money.
well, we're more than 5 minutes in. Oh God.
Oh my god.
You get the idea. Do you want me to keep going?
God. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, needless to say, it's pretty fucked. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh boy. But he's just talking about all that shit. You know, like I wasn't kidding when I said it's some of the worst shit that ever. I mean, and the other one is even worse. The other one's even more descriptive. So,
But
I
I mean, he wasn't a very good writer. Okay, he ain't
no,
like doing 50 Shades of Grey or something.
no. This is what 50 Shades of Grey would have been if it had been in the trailer park.
Yeah. I'm not a billionaire. I'm actually on welfare. Oh, it's not as attractive for some reason. I don't know. I can't explain why.
You want me to keep going, or just was that enough?
You're good, Bill. I think it's good. Yeah.
But it should be noted that I do my notes in 22-point font, and that's why it was 30 pages long. It would have been half that if it was normal size font. But in the long version, he's very descriptive about how his German Shepherd would be participating and how much watching the dog violate a woman gets him off. He even says sometimes that he helps the dogs get it in. He also, in one, describes how long, how he'll drug the women to make them forget. And he says that he didn't want to kill anybody, but that had never stopped him before. And if she deserved killing, he wouldn't hesitate to kill her.
Hey,
Nice guy, huh?
very, very nice.
But
Yeah. Just sounds like
helping,
a great time. Romantic night, just fun.
and you've got a collar around your neck. No.
Well, I gotta go to my toy box later, so.
Oh man.
Ah.
Oh, there are no actually confirmed murders other than Marie, but he's suspected of murdering up to 60 people, and there were survivors who were able to remember and tell their own stories. Now, on to some of the suspected victims. But Billy Ray Bowers, who was 53, he disappeared from Phoenix, Arizona, September 25th, 1988. September 28th, 1989, the body of an unknown man was wrapped in a blue tarp, was found by a fisherman at McCrae Cove at Elephant Butte. No identification was found on him, and it was determined that he had been shot in the back of the head. He was ultimately identified as Bowers back in March of 1999 using dental records. And in 1986, Bowers was a co-owner of Canal Motors, a used car business. Um, Ray worked for him for a while, and they didn't get along at all. And while incarcerated, Hindi stated that Ray told her that he had killed Bowers and dumped his body in the Elephant Butte River. 22-year-old Jill Suzanne Troya. She was last seen at the Frontier restaurant in Albuquerque. She had gone to a bar with friends earlier. Then she went with her friend Jessie Ray to another restaurant. Witnesses reported Jessie and Troy had argued, and Jessie later told police that she left Troya at the Frontier restaurant and left with her father, Ray, David Parker Ray, and that she and Ray went to Elephant Butte Reservoir, and Troya was never heard from again. But Ray wrote detailed accounts of sexual tortures and burial victims, including one in which he described an Asian woman who fits Troya's description. There was also a 2-page letter dated from June of 1990 to a woman named Connie from an Australian man, Mark. According to Ray's journal, Connie was a white woman that he abducted and murdered in December of 95. She was 18 years old, had long hair, a birthmark on her chest, and the Australian Federal Police and the FBI conducted an investigation hoping to locate Mark so that he would be able to identify Connie and her family and friends, but were unable to do so. And she's never been found, and the case is still unsolved. Now we're getting into the survivors. July 26, 1996, Sheriff's Department got a phone call from a husband of 22-year-old Kelly Garrett. It had been more than 24 hours since he had seen or heard from her. And they told him that there wasn't anything that they could do because she was an adult and she hadn't been gone long enough to be considered a missing person. She could have just taken off her own. And since, according to the husband, she had taken off right after they had had a fight. The next day, an employee of the state park brought her home. She had no idea what happened to her. She only remembered waking up on the way home in the truck. The man said that he had found her wandering around the beach of Elephant Butte Lake incoherent, and she was still wearing the same clothes that she had on the day that she left. The man said that he took her to his house, gave her food and water, and then he brought her back to her place. Everything was a blur, and she couldn't remember anything that happened for the last 2 days. All she remembered was the fight with her husband. She left and went to a friend's house. They all decided to go shoot pool, and they wound up bar hopping, and their last stop was the Blue Water Saloon, and that's actually where Kelly drank her first beer of the night. She hadn't been drinking up to that point. But as the nights went on, the drinks continued, and one of her friends had gone home. All but one. Most of her friends had gone home. All of them but one. Take a guess who?
See?
Huh?
Jesse.
Yep. Jesse and Kelly had known each other for 4 years. And all of a sudden, Jesse started feeling dizzy and asked Jesse for a ride home. She didn't remember anything after that. She was bleeding and bruised and thought it was possible that she had been raped, but she couldn't remember. Her husband didn't buy it and accused her of lying and cheating. He then kicked her out of the house and filed for a divorce. Kelly then moved to Colorado. As time went on, she began having nightmares about having a knife held to her throat and being tied up. And she had no idea why she was having the nightmares, but put a knife in that. Now we're getting to Sylvia Marie Parker. She was 22 years old. She was a homeless woman living on the shores of Elephant Butte Lake. She was also an acquaintance of Ray's daughter, Jessie. Jessie supplied her with methamphetamine and cocaine. Parker was the mother of 2 children, and she was living with the children in a tent that she had borrowed. She was last seen at a bar with her ex-boyfriend, Dennis Yancey. Jessie was also questioned. She said that Marie was drunk and that she had taken Marie back home to the tent. Parker disappeared on July 5th, 1997, when she was abducted and tortured to several days of torture before accomplice Yancey, Dennis, strangled her to death under orders from Ray. Dennis then took the police to where he had disposed of the body with David Parker Ray and Jesse Ray. But the body had been moved. And Yancey suspected that the police... Dennis took police to where he disposed of the body and with David and Jesse Ray. But the body had been moved. And Dennis and the police believed that Ray had come back at some point to move the body later on in case Dennis ever had a stroke of conscience and confessed. Another victim, Angela Montano, came forward with a similar story later on. She had moved to Truth and Consequences with her son from Albuquerque, trying to get a fresh start. She had been held captive by Ray after Hindi invited her to the house to pick up a cake mix. She was moved from several different rooms over the course of 5 days, being raped and tortured repeatedly with cattle prods and electric shock, pretty much anything that they had available. After being raped and tortured, Montano convinced the pair to release her along the highway, and she told him that she really needed to get back to her son. And David had said,
Hell, if I'd known you was this nice, I wouldn't have kidnapped you in the first place.
and to that I say, bullshit. He didn't care about any of his, how nice his victims were. She was picked up by an off-duty law enforcement officer, and she had told him what had happened. And he believed her, but she didn't want to file a police report because of things in her past, so the cop left her at a bus stop. She also later called the police about the incident, but there had been no follow-up. Angelica fled Truth and Consequences back to Albuquerque. 2 days later, Cindy wanted to go to Washington to be with her daughter as she gave birth to Cindy's first grandchild. Ray told her that she was fine with that, but she had to go. They had to go find him a girl to play with while she was gone.
I think he would have gotten. I wonder, like, if he would have been able to get all these women, especially these young women, if it weren't for Jessie, because she just made friends with these women
Yeah,
who were like her age.
And Cindy was, she wasn't really. I mean, she wasn't gorgeous, but she wasn't really. She didn't look mean.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's possible that if Jesse and Cindy weren't accomplices, that this doesn't happen. I mean,
Yeah.
he probably would have just been, one of the many people that just grab hookers and stuff like that. He probably would have been in Albuquerque, not Truth and Consequences.
Mm.
That's just my thought. But so Cynthia Vigil was abducted from an Albuquerque parking lot by Ray and his girlfriend. Now, Albuquerque is about 150 miles from Truth and Consequences. But, like I said, that's a better breeding ground. You take, or staging ground or whatever. You take somebody from far away, bring them, that nobody's going to have any clue that they're 150 miles away. But Cynthia had a really rough life. She was abused and molested as a kid. She was around 13 years old when she started living on the street and working as a sex worker. She was taken to Elephant Butte, confined to a bedroom, and tortured. And after about 3 days, Vigil escaped from the trailer on March 22nd, 1999. She had a rule not to get into RVs, but she felt safe because Cindy was there too. And as soon as she got in, Ray attacked and pulled out a God damn it! A fake police badge and handcuffs. That's what I'm gonna cut out. I usually don't cut those out, but that one's coming out.
It would, in fact, not be cut out.
As soon as she got in, Ray attacked her and pulled out a fake police badge and handcuffs. She was quickly subdued, and Cindy then shocked her with a cattle prod. Ray stuffed her down to the floor and cuffed her to a cabinet. She managed to break free of the drawer by breaking the handle on it. And at one point, she was free, so she figured that she would just try and make an escape when they stopped. But she stayed, she stayed squatted down the way she was, just for appearance's sake. But something must have run out in front of Ray or whatever, because at one point he slammed on the brakes and she fell over, and that's when they realized that she had gotten loose. He then pulled over and came to the back of the RV, and the next thing that Cynthia remembered, she was waking up in the bedroom, and the tape started playing, and she was nude with a collar around her neck and a chain attached to it that was connected to the bed. She later even said that Cindy was the more brutal of the two. She even heard the two talking about kidnapping a child and how scared the kid would be and how fun it would be. And she thought that the kid, that they had already had the kid picked out. Sounded like it. She was then beaten, and brutally raped in several rooms in the house. And Ray then told her that when he got home from work, he had a surprise for her, and he was going to take her to the toy box. And she didn't know what the toy box was, and she didn't want to find out. And that's when she made her move. And this was probably, once they got her into the toy box, was probably when Cindy was going to take off to Washington. But she waited until Ray had gone to work, and then she unlocked her chains with keys that Handy had left on a nearby table. And she had to stretch herself out to the point of actually choking herself to get the keys, but she did get them. She unlocked herself, but Cindy noticed. Um, she had actually gotten to a phone and dialed 911, but wasn't able to say anything. But Cindy had noticed, and a fight ensued. During the struggle, Handy broke a lamp over Cynthia's head, but Vigil, she had gotten free and everything, and she stabbed Cindy in the neck with an ice pick that she had found. Why would you have an ice pick in the bedroom?
Why wouldn't you have an ice pick in the bedroom, Bill? That's like, can't forget your ice pick. Yeah.
But she hauled ass out of the house, and she was wearing nothing other than the iron slave collar and a chain. She ran down the road, and a car drove by. It stopped. She was begging for help, and the woman driving, she locked the door and drove off. She ran to the first house that she came to, and she just barged in naked and still wearing the collar. The homeowner took her in, comforted her, and called the police. The police came, and then they called for backup from the state police. They had received the hang up from the 911 call, and then this call came from the same street, just not even probably 15 minutes later. So
Yeah.
they knew something was up. So the state police were on their way, and they entered the house, and it was a mess. There were sex toys and torture devices everywhere. Ray had rushed home from work, and when the police got there, nobody was there. An APB was issued, and 15 minutes later, they pulled over Ray's truck. He and Cindy were out looking for Vigil. They were too stupid to figure out that she might have gotten a call off to the police, and Cindy knew that she had at the start of the fight. So you're not very smart there, guys.
That wasn't our victim. We have another one chained up.
Ray and Cindy's story was. What do you think that their story was?
It, it could be so many things. It could be this woman is crazy, drunk, high. We tried to help her, or it was
You
he
got it.
said, she said,
You got it. You got it. You totally got it. Ray and Cindy said that this was just an intervention. They had kidnapped her against her will and chained her up to break the severe heroin addiction that she had.
Seems legit.
Well, the police called bullshit, and the two were arrested. The FBI sent 100 agents to examine Ray's property and surroundings, but no identifiable human remains were found. But they did gain access to the toy box, and the true horror of what happened to the victims was revealed. Everything was seized and cataloged. The press came, and this made nationwide news. And Angelica Montano, she saw a news story on it, and pretty much, and finally came forward with the story, which pretty much matched Vigil's story. There were lots of videotapes, and the FBI went through all of them. One woman, I mean, they were all, it was impossible to make an identification on who these women were because their faces were covered. But there was one woman strapped into a chair in the toy box, and her face had been completely wrapped with duct tape. But one thing that was visible was a tattoo on her leg. They released the image of the tattoo to the media. And then soon the FBI got a call from somebody who recognized that tattoo. And the woman who called was Kelly Garrett's ex-mother-in-law. The woman also put it together that the man who had brought her home that day was none other than David Parker Ray himself. I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that.
Oh, I figured it was him. I'm like, of course it was him.
Yeah.
But
But Kelly was tracked down in Colorado and she was interviewed. And she was shown pictures from the video, and that's when the memories came flooding back and she was able to finally piece it all together. I couldn't find if there was any comment from her ex-husband after all of this. But all of this, this is what led to Jesse's arrest. Her involvement in that videotape, or not in the videotape, but as far as like getting her to David. But while awaiting trial, Ray spoke to FBI profilers, and he had said that he was fascinated by stories like the kidnapping of Colleen Stan, particularly the girl in the box, which this might be one that we cover sometime in the future. Not next episode. That's one for down the road. I just did this one to kind of like this quickly after we did it, just to kind of mess with you a little bit. As far as after the Dexter episode. For the cases of Vigil, Montano, and Garrett, the judge at the grand jury hearing ruled that Ray be tried separately for each case. Now, this sabotaged the trial because if they had been tried together, or if he had been tried for them all together, then the three stories would have all backed up each other due to the similarities. Instead, juries wouldn't know about the other cases. The judge also said that all of the torture devices found in Ray's house and the shipping container could not be allowed to be brought in as evidence, and not even the tape.
why not?
I don't know. I mean, it's just. I mean, it didn't really matter because, well, we'll get to what happened, but it's just messed up because it could have been a done deal with all three of them in one day, or one trial.
Yeah.
Garrett's trial was declared a mistrial because two jurors said that they didn't believe her story, which is why having them be tried together would have been the right thing to do. Ray also insisted that all of this was consensual. He in interviews said that he gets gratification from making a woman happy.
He's a service sadist.
In Cynthia Vigil's case, the prosecutor showed her the collar and the chain, and she melted down in court, pointed at Ray, and went off on him crying. And I don't think he was making her happy. I don't.
Those were tears of joy, Bill.
Yeah. I missed you so much. No, they had to. She had to get medical attention in order to continue testimony. Still, after a retrial, Ray was found guilty on 12 counts of relating to rape, false imprisonment, kidnapping, torture. I'm hoping bestiality too. But this was on Garrett's case. Angelica Montano's case wasn't tried because she died shortly before it was set to begin. Couldn't find what she died of. It was probably, a stroke or a heart attack or something like that. Which sucked because she was young. Ray agreed to a plea bargain in 2001 and was sentenced to 224 years in prison. The plea bargain was in exchange for leniency on his daughter Jessie, who was sentenced to 30 months in prison with 5 years probation. The whole area and the lake were searched as far as what they could do, but no bodies were ever found. Law enforcement believes that the victims are out there, but it'd be impossible to find them because, like I said earlier, the whole area is an ideal dump site for a killer. Dennis Yancey pled guilty for his part in the murder of Marie Parker. There is no forensic evidence linking him to the murder, and he was charged and sentenced to 20 years. In 2010, Yancey was paroled, but 3 months later he violated his parole, and he was made to serve the rest of his sentence, and he was paroled in 2019. Dennis confessed to taking Marie to Ray. Like as soon as they first got to him, he's like, "I did it." He tried, and like I said before, he tried to take him to where the body was, but Ray had moved the body. Cindy Hindi was sentenced to 36 years, and she had also testified against Ray, but she was paroled in 2019 and was released. She said,
Comforting.
yeah, she said that Ray had been torturing and killing for decades. Of the two that were released, they've been laying low apparently because they haven't been involved in anything illegal as far as we know. May 28, 2002, Ray was taken to a prison in New Mexico to begin his sentence. He died of a severe heart attack in a holding cell while being processed. So he died without serving one single day of his sentence. And
Bastard.
yeah. Cynthia Vigil and I'm assuming it's Kelly Garrett, because she's the only other one that was alive. They together founded a nonprofit called Street Safe that helps sex workers and homeless people in Albuquerque. But that's it. Nasty one.
Yeah. What you could do is you could read that whole 30 pages in voice and then release it as like bonus content.
I was thinking about that. That would never go on YouTube though. I was I was thinking about that. I do have the 30-page saved separately because I was thinking about it, but I don't think I'm going to do it. I mean, if you look on, I mean, there's other podcasts that have done just that and either played the entire thing or read it. So there's no need. And like I said, it's easy to find that stuff online. I'm not even going to bother linking it because you can find it easily. It took me a little while to find that other, the alternate transcript that I didn't even get all the way through it.
Without trying, though. I mean,
yeah, but and I was interrupted. I mean, you listeners didn't hear, but I was interrupted while I was reading that. But I'm gonna get an email. Somebody was listening to that episode where and like I don't know, their 80-year-old grandmother walked in as I was reading the transcript. Oh man.
It's gonna be someone and then like their wife, girlfriend, husband be like, "What the hell are you watching?" Make sure to turn your volume up, ladies and gentlemen, when you listen to this. Don't listen to it quietly. Don't put on headphones. Make sure just.
I couldn't stay in character the whole time, especially with what was going on that was distracting me.
In fact, cast it to your TV and just show everybody. Everybody can enjoy.
Yeah. All right, and this is where we bring Doug.
Ray, not where we bring Ray.
Now we're gonna bring in Sandra's husband Doug to do the Beer of the Week segment, and Doug is on location. I've been doing this for 3 years, and Doug gets the first on location broadcast ever on this podcast. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but anyway. Anyway, what do you got for us this week, Doug?
All right. So today I am at Deviant Libations here in Tampa, a brewery that specializes in dark beers and some IPAs as well. Today I actually have a collaboration beer that they did. This one's called Ghost Stories. So I'll fix it right here. It's a collaboration with the meadery company Dexter. All right, so it's a combination beer and mead, which is amazing. It's a whiskey barrel aged braggot. So I guess if you take a stout and a mead and mix them together, you get a braggot, which I did not know about that until today. I didn't. It's a new one for me. It's a malt beverage with natural flavors. And it's also aged in whiskey barrels, which is even better. This is right up my alley. But for what you do, Bill, and everything, I know some of these items that we talk about could be considered at some point ghost story. Considering some of the topics that you cover. So yeah, let's give it an open and give it a try here. So
Well, I
and
hope our subject this week was you know he he's a ghost, but I hope he's a ghost in misery.
right. So, but yeah, this is going to be again super dark, which is again right up my alley. This is also 11%, by the way. Um, this is because it's relatively new. It is not on Beer Advocate yet. But once I do get a score on this, I'll be sure to give it. But this is actually I just had it a little bit ago. It's actually really good. So it's probably in the 80s or 90s, which is what I normally review. But very dark, a little bit of a head on it. Um, very sweet. That mead that is because obviously mead's made with honey, correct? Right. So, that definitely sweetness comes through. This is super whiskey and honey. That's literally what this is whiskey and honey.
Damn.
Oh, and it just smells amazing. So hang on. Mm, mm. Oh, that is amazing. That is really good. Dark, rich, malty, sweet. Um, Everything you're looking for in a good beer. But again, with a collaboration with a meadery, so it's even better. But no, this is super good. The sweet notes really come through in the nose as well. Mm, mm. Yeah. Once I get a score on this, I'll be sure to let you know. But
Well, what's your score?
no, well, my score is like out of 100, I would give it easily like an 87, 88, somewhere around there.
Nice. So
Um,
eight or nine, 8 or 9 out of 10.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, so good. Yeah. A beverage fermented with both malt and honey, rich and complex roasted malt with moderated honey sweetness, mild hop bitterness, and a subtle smoky character with uh, some type of tea, Lapsing Durgog tea. But collaboration with Deviant Libation, which is where I'm at right now, and Bee Nectar, which is a very popular meadery. I've seen their mead around quite a bit. But yeah, no, this is solid. It's a very good beer. If you're ever in Tampa and you just stop at a brewery, I highly recommend Deviant Libation. It's a very metal themed
Cool.
brewery and such. But yeah, definitely check them out.
Plug the address.
Let me see if I got the address here.
I can,
But
I can Google it real quick.
yeah.
Who can Google it the quickest? This is a
Yeah, I do not see the address on the bottom. So
Deviant Libation is at 3800 North Nebraska Avenue in Tampa, Florida 33603.
there we go. Yes, definitely check them out. An amazing brewery. I've been here a few times. Can't recommend them enough. They are awesome.
I thought that name would sound familiar. My daughter went to her very first punk show there a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, they do concerts and whatnot here as well. So
Yeah, so I mean, she sent me video and everything. A bunch of teenagers trying to mosh. It was pretty funny.
yeah. So and as always, ckcbeer@gmail.com. If you want to send me a beer to review, happy to do it. And yeah, I'll check them out and we'll get her done. All right.
All right, thanks a lot, and yeah, tell everybody about the show. I'm sure they're wondering what the hell you're doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've plugged it a few times here.
Awesome.
Hmm.
So, all right, man. We will see you next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate the hell out of it. Listen, subscribe, follow on YouTube page or whatever platform you use. 5-star ratings are awesome. It helps to grow the show, but what helps the most is if you get out and tell people about it. So if you like us, tell a friend, and if you hate us, tell an enemy. And until next week, see ya.
Cheers.
Later.